All right, let's talk about 10-2. Okay, Islam spreading. So, folks, as we're going to talk about today, how did Muslims conquer many lands? What movements emerged within Islam? And then why did the empire of the caliphs decline? Okay, so age of conquest. What you guys are looking at here with this map is how far, once Muhammad passes, the Islamic culture spreads. If you look at this, the red area is how far Islam spread when Muhammad was alive up until his death. So, as you can see, predominantly over the Arabian Peninsula, right on the edge of the Persian Gulf here. But look at what happens in the immediate 30 years that after he dies. Look at how far it spread. All right, crazy. And then when you look at what happened in the 60 to 100 years after his death, you're on now 3 different continents: Asia, Europe, and Africa. That's incredible when you think about it. Like, the extent of that is insane. Just to show you by comparison, this purple line is the Byzantine Empire. That's the farthest they were able to expand. So it's already crazy. Look at that expansion. It's insane. So there are some challenges to Islam. Again, you don't need to write all this down. If you want to put down some summary notes, that's fine. I just need you guys to listen. The Byzantine Persian empires, they were weak. Why are they weak? Because they fight each other all the time. This is how empires grow to shrink. All right? They shrink because they're constantly fighting each other over resources and land. Okay? When the Arab conquerors come, these Islamic folks, these Muslims, when they come into the area, all the people that lived in like the Fertile Crescent and Africa, so on and so forth, they welcome them as liberators. They're going to set us free, right? They had heard a little bit about Islam, things that made sense. They're going to set us free. That's awesome when you think about it. Awesome when you think about it. The Arabs use bold, effective fighting strategies and methods, and they're going to overwhelm traditional armies. So I don't know if you guys understand this or not, but when it comes to military, when you have the newest, best, and brightest things, you got a better shot of winning. Okay? We talked about in our last unit, the longbow, right? The longbow helped swing the 100 Years' War for the English, and then eventually the French got what? Starts with a C, ends in Cannon. Cannon. They got a cannon, right? When they get the cannon beats the bow every day. You understand what I'm saying? So just like with this, there's new methods, new fighting styles, and that is going to change the dynamic, and it is going to allow the Muslim Islamic faith to spread faster. What is really interesting is that with all these different tribes, different beliefs, different histories and backgrounds, when Islam comes to that area, everybody kind of not necessarily gives that up, but also accepts the fact that there needs to be one commonality between everybody, and they choose Islam as that commonality. So it's going to unify all these different smaller groups into one larger group. So some of the immediate effects with Islam coming into some of these areas is it's going to spread from the Atlantic coast to the Indus Valley. And you're going to start to develop major cities of learning. We're going to talk about Cairo, which is in Egypt, Cordoba, which is in Spain, and then later on in I think it's our next unit, we're going to talk about Africa and the city of Timbuktu. Timbuktu became a worldwide phenomenon, a center for learning. People came from all over the world to study in the village and then city of Timbuktu. So some long-term effects, Muslim civilization is going to emerge with its own identity. Europe, Asia, and Africa are going to be linked through Muslim trade networks. You're going to start to see shared language develop. Because again, you have all these tribes, they speak all these different languages. They come up with one common language that everybody has to learn how to speak, and then they can all communicate. Isn't that crazy when you think about it? And this undoes like centuries of differentiation between these different tribes. You're also going to start to see a split between the Sunni and Shiites. When you don't have that one leader, divisions always occur. Okay? If you look at early American history, George Washington, I'm assuming most of you have heard who he is, first president of the United States, right? He believed in people staying away from political parties, said political parties were going to divide and hurt our country. Well, wow, little did he know that a couple hundred years later, that's exactly what political parties are doing to our country. Would you agree? Democrats and Republicans? Craziness. So again, just looking at this map, like I said, we are talking about, here's Cordoba, by the way. Here is Cairo, and then Timbuktu is going to be over here somewhere. You're going to start to see these centers of learning, and they're kind of spread out. And Islam is going to bring those centers of learning to fruition and allow people to come study and learn new things, men and women, by the way. After Muhammad dies, you're going to see a split. You have the Sunni. Who are the Sunni? They believed in the caliph or successor to Muhammad should be chosen by the leaders of the Muslim community. The Sunni believe that any good Muslim could be a leader. Okay? He's a leader, not a religious authority. All right? The last religious authority was Muhammad. He was the prophet chosen by God. Okay? These caliphs were not that. They were just leaders of the community. That's what the caliphs were. The Shiites believed that only a descendant of Muhammad could become caliph. They wanted to keep it in the lineage of the family. Say Muhammad, it has to be somebody with a direct tie to him. That's what the Shiites believe. They believe descendants of Muhammad had to be divinely inspired, and that's why they wanted to keep it in that bloodline. They thought Muhammad and his family, his descendants, would be blessed, that blood would be blessed, and therefore they wanted to follow somebody that came from that bloodline. You had a third group that arose, the Sufi. They believed in communication with God still, but they believed in meditation, fasting, other rituals. In the textbook, they have a whirling dervish, is what it's called. It's a movement, like a dance almost, that would, they believe, connect them with Allah. They use like mysticism and all sorts of crazy stuff. So Sufi are very interesting. Powerful caliphs ruled the Islamic world. They expanded the Arab Empire, and they brought about this golden age of civilization. Remember, guys, prior to Islam, Arabic people did not have a lot of architecture, art. Their main form of art and spreading words were poetry, poems, and music. That's it. So spoken word and music is what they used. During this time, the Umayyads, they're going to set up a dynasty that's going to last about 100 years. We talked about what they did. They relied on local officials to govern the empire. This was smart, because every time they move into an area, they would get local people to help out. Right? They would get local people to help out with the government, and people appreciated that. It's not some foreigner coming into the country trying to tell them how to live their life. They're like, you know what? We appreciate your customs and who you are as a people. I'm going to have some of your folks work in the government to bring about this change. And as always, what happens with empires as they rise and then they fall, it usually has to do with money, and it's always the split between rich and poor. Poor people don't like being poor. Okay? Rich people have no problem staying rich. That's an issue. Okay? That's an issue.
Today.
Yeah, nothing to It's tales old as time, is English. Yeah. Tales old as time. Capital for the Umayyads was Damascus. You had Christian Jews, Zoroastrians, that were allowed to practice their faith or follow their own laws, and they needed to pay a special tax, which was very unique, because who gets the raw end of the deal everywhere they go? The Jews. And so when the Muslims, of all people, come in and take over areas, they allow Jews to practice their faith, didn't blame them for anything, just made them pay a special tax, and they could worship whoever and however they wanted. Pretty incredible when you think about it. This is kind of the beginning of the end, though, for the Umayyads. They encourage separation. They said, look, you can worship however you want, but just do it on your side of town. Okay? And so they're going to set up little sections of neighborhoods, if you will. These are the precursors to the ghettos that were set up during World War II for the Jews. Okay? Precursor to that. But again, they could live and worship without fear of being killed. So a little positive with a negative there, but unfortunately encourages separation, which, as I said, leads to issues down the road. The Abbasids, they overthrew the Umayyads. They come after them. They ended Arab dominance and helped make a universal religion, make Islam the universal religion. Empire of the Caliphs reached its greatest wealth and power at that point in time. This is the Golden Age, the Abbasid Age. Capital moved to Baghdad, which is in modern-day Iraq. City of peace, gift of God, paradise on earth. Does that sound familiar? Yeah. Markets, gardens, palaces, mosques, beautiful. My brother told me that when he was in the Marines that he would talk to people in the service when they were over in Iraq and Afghanistan, who talked about when they went in to Baghdad in the 90s, that it was a beautiful city. And then again, when they went in the 2000s to take over the city, they said it was still just absolutely beautiful. Like the wealth was unimaginable for even Americans to go in there and see how the upper class lived in Iraq. It was just a completely different world, but very beautiful, but also sad. And then this group, the Abbasids, had strong support from the Shiites, which again is the minority of followers of Islam today. So just to show you a little progression of the growth of the Islamic empires, look at that. Is that not crazy? Starts here, ends here. Again, 3 continents, all those time zones, all that land. Just incredible. Just incredible. As with every major empire, there's always a rise, a peak, and then a fall. Okay? So, despite the fact that Islamic empires are going to decline in their overall wealth and power, they still link people all over the world. Around 850, you start to see the empire become fragmented. The Seljuk Turks are going to invade the Middle East. Again, better weapons, better tactics. They wanted the land and resources that the Muslims had, so they took it. The Mongols, they took over everybody. The Mongols didn't care. You want to talk about a conquering force second to none on planet Earth? It'd be the Mongols. They literally covered from Japan, China in the east, all the way over to this area that we're talking about in Africa and even bits of Europe in the west. That is massive. And the Mongols didn't care, dude. Like, they were scary. And you guys remember the stat, we watched that video? Was it 1 out of every 4 people on planet Earth can trace their roots to Genghis Khan raping all those women? Or yeah, sorry, that's what it was. There's 4 people that got one right, so 1 out of every 200 people. Yes, good call. Thank you. So this is just a timeline. You guys have access to this. You can take a look at it if you like. This is basically how the Sunni and the Shiite are the same. They worship the same God, believe in the Quran and the 5 pillars. They have differing religious practices, laws, rules for daily life. Fastest growing religion in the world. And then obviously your 2 divisions. So in Christianity, it would be like the Catholics and Protestants. Okay, just 2 different divisions believing in the same thing, but trying to do things their own way. The Sunni, 88% of the world's population. Shiite, about 11%. The remaining would be the Sufi. I think it's like about, 1% left that would be the Sufi. And that is all I have, and that's actually perfect timing. So what we're going to do here, which group believed that only descendants of Muhammad could become caliph? Sunni, Shiites, Umayyads, or the Sufi? What do you think? Only descendants. B? Okay. Islam spread to all of the following except where? Some say B. A. Let's see who's right. Shiites is correct, and then France is correct. So they went to all of these places except for France. That's pretty incredible when you think about it. All right, that is it for me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to end this presentation here, and we will take a break.